Welcome back. We're going out into the woods to shoot some of the launch images for a new thing that Clever Supply Company is releasing this summer. We can't show the product, but I shot a lot of what I would consider personal work, some portraits and lifestyle, landscape kind of stuff. So you're going to kind of hear what I was thinking, why I made certain decisions as we shoot. I'll talk about the gear that I used, and also we'll end up here at the end and I will edit some photos and show you how I got the look that you see in all of these photos. Rosie?
Forrest?
What time did you set your alarm for this morning?
2:25.
That sucks.
Yep, that was too early.
Good morning. We are taking photos with Rosie again today.
Hello.
We're very tired. I forgot the microphone, so we have an iPhone. We're just gonna start shooting because conditions are amazing and we need to take advantage of it. It's been at like 7:30, 7:20. I had someone comment on an iPhone photo I posted of this morning, and they were like, Montana sure makes it easy, right? And like, yes, absolutely. A beautiful place makes things very easy. I think what I said was like, you know, sure, if you're going to, you know, learn to like the winter and be willing to show up a couple of dozen times to get perfect conditions, finding locations, revisiting over and over all of the failed attempts, etc., then yep, when you show up and conditions are perfect, it's easy. We're waiting for the sun to come up. What I wanted to mention is that even when you don't have an obvious light source, there is usually still like a stronger light source, right? So you have shadows. Right now I'm backlit even though the sun is not, no digging, even though the sun is not out. And so if I come over here, it looks a little bit better, right? So I think it's just something that, you know, when you're in the moment and shooting and kind of like go, sometimes you just pick a frame, and sometimes when you do that, you kind of forget like what the best light is. I would usually try to shoot the best light over the best frame, if that makes sense. I generally end up being happier with those photos. See if she'll mess, like... We got it. That's not the one. Close. I think...
I gotta like kind of bring the bag up a little bit. Like
yeah, maybe up a little bit. And I'm like, what if... Hold still if you would. Oh, that sounded slow, didn't it? The Canon AE1 I have is like kind of on the fritz. If you don't shoot it for a while, the first frame you take is like a half second. So I don't know if any of these are going to come out on film. I hope so. No, you can just talk to her. I just shot this. It's really cool, but I think the first thing that happens when the sun comes over the mountains is that we need to reshoot this shot, because what I'm thinking is going to happen is that she'll be lit by the sun, but we'll have that nice shadow back behind her, so it'll feel like a lot more 3D. It's always the kind of thing where you shoot a bunch of angles and then the good light really happens and you kind of look at the old photos and go, oh, it's not as good. So I try to remember just to like shoot different angles while I can, and then kind of note what I am going to want to reshoot if the light does happen. And really quick, look at the photo I took there before the sun had risen, and look at this photo after that had happened, and the difference I think is pretty big. Gear, Leica SL2-S. I love this camera. I cannot put it down. It is just a joy to use. I used 3 lenses, Nikkor 105mm f2.8, great for portraits, macro stuff. I don't use it a ton, but I use it frequently. I shot probably 50-50 on these 2 lenses. The Zeiss Sonar 50 1.5 M-mount lens on a close focus adapter, and the Leica SL spherical 35mm Summicron, which is just a Panasonic that is not plastic, but is pretty wonderful.
Going?
Hang out right there for a second, will you?
also a rock if you want me to stand over it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, can I get a photo of that? Yeah.
Sure. You okay? In this instance, you probably think that, no ripple or anything in the water is best. I kind of think it looks cooler when there was a little bit of a ripple coming from her movement. It kind of made things feel a little bit more 3D, my opinion. You could walk out like straight at me. Just walk around, be silly, whatever. So right here, as she walks back, I am manual focusing. I'm using focus peaking on the SL2-S, and it's pretty easy. So most of these frames are in focus, and we could have always done it again. Just something to think about. This video is sponsored by me. I have a preset bundle with 3 packs, including FM Film, FM 04, and FM Vintage. They include 66 presets for 70 bucks. That's 50% off right now. They work on your computer, your tablet, your phone. Here is a iPhone picture, just straight out of camera, and here is an edit I made in 30 seconds on the free Lightroom mobile app. So yeah, if you like how these photos look, check out the link in the description. And maybe the flat one a little bit closer to me. So this shot right here is basically my redo of the shot I was talking about earlier, right? I learned something, I put her on a different rock, I moved my location, and I think ultimately ended up with a stronger composition. But in my mind, those are 2 different executions of the same idea. And I like the second one better. Yes. Penny, 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 come here. Just like more, yeah. Really what I'm doing here is trying to convey that same sense of separation or like floating of Rosie standing on the log. So I realized that the lower that I got, the more that kind of translated in the image. Yeah, this one was kind of tough though. I had to move around a little bit, and as cool as this looks, I really, I had to spend a little time thinking about it and kind of approach and reapproach it and just, change things up, which I think is important. If you're trying something and it's, just not working, just take a minute and kind of, reanalyze things, think about again what you're wanting to accomplish, and just slow down, try it again.
I'm gonna try.
Let's try one leg down to start. Little dabbles. Drop it. Drop it. Here you go.
Oh, that's cool. I have no idea what's happening with the toxic.
Okay, yeah, just keep doing that if you don't know. I feel like this was the best use of that scene. The best light on Rosie and the best, I guess, relationship between subject lighting and background lighting. I think the posing flowed a little bit better. And this was after a couple of times of, re-attempting the concept. And this was the final one. I think it was better. And once again, just try and try again. The light's changing. I would just say instead of overshooting one idea and having to cull through all of those later, I would just try multiple ideas, multiple angles, and usually one of those will emerge as the superior shot or the best way to convey what you're trying to get across in the photo. So try different things. Like the shot like that feels like.
Okay, I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah, right?
Right there.
Yeah.
Come here. Come here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, come here.
All right, my light's changing. Let's edit some photos. I'm using FM film right here. Okay, this photo I shot. Here's the original photo. Let's raise it up a little bit, and based off what I just talked about, I knew that the retro series was kind of where I was going to base things off of. Retro 2 is pretty cool. 6. Let's go retro 6. So it's a little bit too contrasty for me. Let's just start by raising up the shadows. I'm gonna move the white balance around a little bit. And I'm always going back and forth. I think that is actually pretty close. It's hard to tell right now with this huge softbox in my face. So I may tweak it a little bit afterwards, but as far as my lighting conditions right now, I think that's it. Easy. This one is a panorama. I took 2 photos with the 105mm and just merged them together. So really fast, let's hit R and fix this crop. Let's start with retro 6 again. It's nice to have some consistency. Oh, I do like 1, but let's do retro 6. So something I'm doing a lot is I'm not including the top of the mountains. I don't know, to me it just makes things feel so much more impressive when you can't really see everything. You're just left to fill in the blanks yourself. So what I like about this is the orange and the reds, but I really kind of wish I could get those warm tones without losing how dark this blue background was, right? Because that was really cool to me. And so I think what I'm gonna try, let's lower that a little bit. Let's mess with the split toning a little bit. The balance, okay. Now we can bring down the luminance of the blues. So there's a before and there is an after. I like that balance. It's not too extreme, but it's just enough where you get that feeling of depth from having the warmer colors close up to you or in the foreground and the blue in the background. Okay, again, I want things to look consistent. I have an idea of kind of what the shoot should look like. I want each photo to be, exposed and edited well, but I want them to feel cohesive. So I'm gonna stick in the retro series. Ooh, yeah, retro 6 again. So let's just mess with this exposure. I mean, you could kind of do anything with this photo. But I like this because you have a bright sky, but there's still a little bit of distinction around that sun. Immediately though, let's look at the original. We shifted colors a little bit, and I'm closer to where I want to be, but I think I want to go into the split toning, go into the highlights, and add a little bit of that kind of pink purple. Let's start there and then mess with our balance. So that's, more as far as in what values it will apply to. This is less, and let's take it out and bring it back in, blending. How about there? So there's before, after, and here's just with no split toning and with split toning applied. Honestly, for me, this guy is kind of distracting. Yeah, Lightroom is probably not gonna do a good job of just knowing what you want. If you hit H, you can see where things go. What I would do for a photo like this is I would just hit Command E, take it into Photoshop, and just figure that out with the patch healing tool. But that's basically it. You can, maybe you could straighten things up if you're into that. There's a before, after, before, after. So this was that instance that I really liked with Rosie on the log. I'm gonna start with retro again. Let's start here, and it's a little too rich for me right now. Things are a little too saturated. Let's play with exposure again. I really want, you know, instead of her skin tones being extremely bright and the shadows being lifted a little bit, I want to just shift everything down where her skin tones are a little bit darker and the shadows are really, really kind of pushed down. I want to be able, like, I don't want this, I want to be able to tell a little bit what's going on back there, but really I just need enough to get the context and to get a little bit of those cool colors that are going to contrast the warm sunlight that's kind of hitting her. So right off, I'm not doing a great job on the skin tones. So I just reduced the contrast a tiny bit, and I'm going to drop it down a little more. I think maybe it's a white, yeah, it's a white balance shift, right? Because right here, everything's kind of warm, even those shadows, and there's not the separation. But if you bring it back in, yeah, I'm a little bit happier with that. I think what I want to do is I've pulled these highlights down over here. I'm going to hit K, create new mask, select people, person 1, face skin. That's beautiful, right? Hit create mask. I just want to add some highlights back into it, because look, if I pull it down, the further I pull things down, the grosser that skin texture gets, the more unnatural, right? So if I bring those highlights back in, and also when you have like a really low sun or like that kind of side lighting, it truly emphasizes every single wrinkle, pimple, everything. It just kind of like texturizes your face. And so let me zoom in here, and I'm just gonna bring that texture slider down a little bit. Like, digital cameras are they're too good. Side tangent to illustrate that. When I first got the Fuji GFX 50, I sent a portrait I had taken over to my agent to put on, you know, the portrait section of my gallery on the site. And I think he sent it back like 3 separate times, and each time he was like, fix the skin, it's too sharp, it's too sharp. And when I look back at the different versions now, it was like, yeah, it's too sharp. So digital is kind of too sharp for its own good. It's nice to have, but when you're shooting, you know, especially in kind of hard light from the side, it's gonna look kind of nasty on skin tones, and you need to be able to identify that and counteract it. You also don't wanna, you know, get into the trap of, you know, you pull down clarity and you get this weird, nasty thing. Like, you still want texture, you want a little bit of information, and it's kind of a balance and a bit of a learning process just to figure that out. Before or after, before or after. Honestly, it's a little bit warm still. I'd do that. And if it were my photo, I would probably delete that before, after. Okay, as you can see, it is getting very dark here. I hope you found this video entertaining or helpful or whatever. If you'd like to see more, let me know. If you would like to see something different, any comments are appreciated. I think, once again, that is like my favorite part of the YouTube channel, just reading what your thoughts are. So let me know. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for looking.